Hey, this is Soul Arts. I'm switching over from 2D to 3D, so I'm going to be learning practically from the ground up on my own ish, using YouTube videos as reference like Kresune. And I'm going to be turning this 2D Sword in the Stone drawing that I made into this 3D model. And it's all going to be texture based, so hand drawn textures. So let's get started. Okay, so with this being like my first project, doing it on my own, like I said before, I've taken the Crash Sune course on how to do characters, but you know how it goes. If you're only watching a tutorial and you're not actively paying attention or using those skills when it comes to other work, you didn't really learn anything. So I tried making another character. The character was called like Happy TV, and I was trying to do it in the Mega Man style, and I didn't fully understand what I was doing because I was using Crash Sune's work. It's kind of like copying someone's homework. You get the gist of it, but you don't get the full thing. So what I did was I created this the sword in the stone drawing, and I used that as like my basis to get myself used to modeling on my own, the texturing on my own, and figuring out how this process like really works and making my own pipeline and system for it. So as you can see, I draw the sword in the stone. I just use Copic markers because I find it a lot easier to do, and I don't have to worry about copying colors per se, except for the ones that I really want. And then if I wanted to change my mind, I just change my mind while I'm making it. The first one is just getting my own system and pipeline in, and then going from there. So after I make this drawing, then as you can see, it goes into the texturing that I make for the Blender model. We'll worry about that later. So then I port it all into Blender itself. And from Blender, I start with making the sword first, taking a plane, cutting it up into using the knife, taking a plane, taking the knife tool, and then slicing it up, and then extruding it from there. Then I use a few cylinders, put those on top of each other, merge them together, and then created the handle and the hand guard itself. And after I made it, I kind of didn't want to do that external hand guard, the circular one, so I axed that from the whole design itself. And then from there, I started to apply the texturings on top of it. So with this being a 2D texture, it's just taking the emission texture from not the emission texture, the emission node and the texturing phase and shading, and then feeding the texture image itself, the 2D image, into the emission node. And then from there, I just unwrap it, which I don't because I still don't like to unwrap things yet. So I do a 2D cube projection from the image. No, not a 2D cube projection. I project from view, from my camera view, and I'll take that, place it on top of my 2D image, and use that to make the 2D image pop up onto the 3D design. And it takes a little while. I thought maybe I can make some streamlines in there and make some highlights of like light shining on top of it. It didn't turn out perfectly, but that's not the point. The point of this one was just to get used to it, get my feet wet, get used to how I operate the system. Then after I finished doing that, I took a cube, stretched it out a little bit, moved some points around, did a few, I'm rethinking about this because I don't have the model in front of me. Unfortunately, it also got deleted when I made my next 3D model, the Harbinger, but we'll get into that later. So I moved the cube back. I moved the cube around and made the rocks, duplicated it, shifted those around a little bit so that way they looked a bit varied. Then after that, I made textures for those as well. So I made cracks in the rock. You'll see that on my texture on the sides, and I put that on top where the sword's supposed to be, so that way it has that little divot, those little cracks. But this being 2D, this is more like PlayStation 2 Mega Man Legends style. So the textures carry most of the work in the data. So it's not going to be anything high resolution and high depth where, you know, the models themselves do a lot of the work. No, it's the 2D images that's going to be doing it for me. Plus, it's me learning, and I think it's just easier to do because I like texturing, and it keeps that drawing skill that I've cultivated going into my 3D modeling skill and phase. So as I do the texturing for that, then I start working on the grass, and I make the base first. You know, like anything, you start simple and then you go into details. So I make the ground for the base. That was the cylinder. I cut it down into 6 points, and then just stretched it out from there, and then extruded it down so that way it hid all the rocks that were popping through at the bottom. Then from there I made my grass, and to make it easier for me, I like doing gradients. So with a texture gradient, I went into Clip Studio Paint, and I made a cube. I made a dark version of green, then a light version of green. Then I did the gradient stream, and when I did the cube projection from the blade of grass that I made, I did that first, and then I duplicated it. So that way, that same texture is duplicated across each blade of grass, and then I merged them back together and just merged the some of the points back together, the vertices. So that way I didn't have to worry about doing a cube projection and then flattening out my blades of grass if I've already moved them around. It saved me time, and it's just a lot easier to manage. And after that, I moved those points around, played around with it a little bit more to make it look like grass, stretched some out, shrank some. I did it from the top view so it was easier just to move around. And then after that, I was done. And it looks nice for a starter. And as you can see, it has many problems. And I'm sure those who have been doing 2D texturing for quite some time know there are like many better ways that I could have done this. But this is my first one. This is my practice. So can't wait to see you guys in the next video. That should be coming soon, The Harbinger. And if you guys want to follow me on my Blue Sky, and I should be getting back on my Instagram when it comes to these posts. So those are the 2 places that you'll see me the most, and here on YouTube. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.